Dude, I am tired, which is an exciting way to start a podcast. Do you know? Okay, everyone loves airline stories, right? Everyone loves airline stories. You love airline stories, right?
What is it with the airplane food?
Oh, how come I can't smoke on the plane? I'm a grandpa. I didn't get home. I didn't get home until 3 a.m. yesterday or this morning. Well, that's actually.
When did your journey start? So you were in Houston for the NALCS. What? The mid-season finals.
You're really close. It's the mid-season showdown, and for everybody who doesn't want to hear anything about League of Legends, I'll make this very, very short. Very short. No, it's DOTA podcast. It's the LCS MSS Spring 2022 playoffs, which is an event that they put on for 2 days in Houston at the football stadium. That was get this, 1 best of 5 per day. One on Saturday, the losers bracket final. One on Sunday, the winners bracket final. They did an entire event with like 20,000 people for what ended up being a grand total of, I hope you can hear the jumble, 6 fucking games of League of Legends.
Wait, it was 3-0 both games?
Yep!
Oh my god. That's awful. Well, what a terrible, oh, Jesus. What a terrible event. I was going to say what a terrible game, what a terrible esport, but I'm not actually trying to throw those shots.
I don't think it's a terrible esport. I think that it might be like a terrible or suboptimal game. I think that the broadcast is
actually,
like,
whoa, it's the opposite. I think it's a good game. I think it's a bad esport.
We can hash that out later.
There are so many metas that have just been bad for League of Legends. That game is... that game can be mega snooze fest and has been multiple years, multiple metas.
It's a good game because a lot of people play it, right? And that's how you derive value from something. Regardless of the game state, it's the number of dollars coming into pockets because capitalism wins again. 6 games. For anybody who followed, they know that Team Liquid, the first place seed, lost the losers bracket finals 0-3. That was fun. I was in the back room where you get to like watch the game with the coaches and like listen to the comms the whole time, which I can't talk about, but oh boy, that was an experience. I've never had that experience before at a tournament. Normally, I'm like in the booth or with the fans.
There.
Yeah, I went there with the team
for the event
to work.
You were there for the team, and your team gets bounced out immediately.
3 games,
and the grand finals goes 3-0. That had to have been the least climactic fucking event. Could you have even imagined that it could have gone any worse than that?
There's silver linings. I kind of had a free Sunday because we weren't playing. The winner of LCS of League in the spring has to go to MSI, which is where all the first place teams from across all the regions get together to play a tournament. Don't have to go to Korea now. That's a win. But in terms of actually like being at the event, yes, the first set of games very quick. Actually, they were long for League games, but and 3-0, and then the second day 3-0. Evil Geniuses won. It's a really good story. I think that it's really good for League of Legends and the ecosystem and happy and like all that stuff. I'm really happy 100 Thieves lost. So
all right, you're talking too much about League of Legends. So is speeding this up. I don't give a shit what was good for fucking League of Legends, Joey. Jesus Christ. Speeding this along though, Monday your flight out,
dude,
and there was a storm in Houston.
Dude, there's a storm in Houston. Why do people? Dude, it's too humid in Texas. It's too humid in Texas.
Yes.
And the one time it wasn't humid was because there was a giant monsoon thunderstorm going on, which delayed everybody's return flight that stacked up through the day. And I strategically wanted to fly out late in the day, 10 o'clock at night, so I could, hang out with friends, enjoy Monday, kind of a day off. My 10 o'clock flight got pushed because the plane was given to people who were going to Rio. And then it got pushed because my second plane was given to people who were going to Austin, because apparently that was a priority. And I didn't leave or get a crew until about 1:30 in the morning. And then I didn't get there until about 3:30-ish in the morning. And then I had to walk about 30 minutes to get to the car because I parked at LAX, which was a giant mistake. And the terminal I arrived at was the complete opposite direction of the terminal I left from. So I walked like 15, 20 minutes at LAX. I didn't get home until like after 4 in the morning to go to bed. And then I had to wake up at 7. I'm cranky.
I also had a delayed flight on my way back from Sweden. My 14-hour flight travel time or whatever got delayed like an extra 2 or 3 hours because KLM workers were striking at the Amsterdam airport.
So, like, does that mean that, like, scabs were working your flight? Like, who did they get to...
No, I think it's one of those things where it's like, it's important for the airline to keep going, right? So I think they do this thing where they're like, we're going to strike for half a day sort of thing. That's what I assume it is, because I don't think you just strike and then like shut down the airplane. Like, that's incredibly disruptive, and you probably aren't going to be winning any general population fans by doing something like that.
Maybe, but that feels like an ineffective strike then, because they're still doing all the work.
I mean, it definitely fucked things up. It fucked things up real good.
Well, I'm glad that you're back in America, because we can record a podcast at hours that we're both awake, except for, I guess, right now. I do want to touch on one thing that is not league related, but was from my time in Houston. At the event. So do you know, like at TI, they have the suites in the arena, like the box suites, which every like team and Valve and other people do. And generally, so TI has like 16 teams, and that means that, you know, some of the teams are naturally next to each other when they're playing, and you can kind of like hoot and holler and like hear your neighbors cheer. There were 3 teams at this event and 3 box suites, and they were all immediately next to each other. And it was incredibly awkward, because there was a little bit of animosity between, 100 Thieves and everybody else.
Okay.
And that level of uncomfortable meta really added to my experience at the event. And I think that if I was a tournament organizer, what I learned from firsthand experience is that you shouldn't put all those people within arm's distance of each other.
Why? They get into fights? Because unless you're getting into fights, I feel like anything else is good content.
But it's not being used for content. All it did was make like employees feel uncomfortable with each other, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't broadcasted. It was just like a state of unease and like not knowing what to do, like in a social situation, right?
Okay, I wasn't there, but I feel like you're overthinking this.
Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm right. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was generally uncomfortable. Maybe we all drank too much because no one was playing on Sunday. I'm happy to be back though.
I can imagine.
Dallas over Houston. That's the text opinion that I have formed now. I have to see where Austin and San Antonio fall into the mix, but so far Dallas
San Antonio
is
over
Houston.
both of those.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, what do you want to talk about first? Because we got so much shit to talk about.
Dude, All
right, so I'll start off with how Sweden was. Sweden was good. Sweden was fine. It was work. Worked the tiebreakers. We had some teams go through. TSM and EG out of NA ended up going through. Quincy crew did not.
Which prompted roster changes.
Prompted some roster changes, which I immediately have 2 names that came out to my mind when they said they were going to. So I have no idea about this, but I just assume MSS is going to be coming back to Quincy crew. I mean, it's the 3rd season. I don't know if there's any other spots really available for Mojo. And then there are 2 5 positions out there, Fada and Fly. And I know Fly lives in North America, so I just assume Fly is going to be the other one. So that is my bet. That is my prediction for the people joining Quincy crew. I have no inside information in that.
It seems I thought he was like kind of had a cush thing going on with TSM though. I guess playing is always more advantageous than being a dad.
Fly? No,
Yeah.
no. Fly did the regionals for them, and they wanted him to keep coaching, but he declined it because he wanted to keep playing. And once you get like locked in, the longer you're out of the game. Actually, I talked to SVG about this. He basically said that like your opportunities dry up so fast once you're out of the game. And the only way you can like maintain relevance without being in a pro team is being on like a leaderboard. So like Saksa kept his stock very high because, you know, he was like, okay, I was a grand finalist at TI. And oh, by the way, I have like 3 fucking accounts in the top 10. You know, it's like he kept his name, you know, in the bid for a top tier team by doing that. But somebody like Fly isn't going to be able to do that, right? He's not one of those like individually talented. Also, he's playing 5 positions, so you know you're just not going to be high MMR. So, yeah. So that's my guess.
So can you fill me in on this and potentially fill in somebody else who didn't quite follow the situation? There were tiebreakers, but then there weren't tiebreakers, but then there were tiebreakers again for just the ones that determined spots at the major. But
yeah.
Wikipedia was mad, but what's the TLDR for someone who was like only very loosely paying attention because it was kind of a clusterfuck to try and follow?
Here's what I gather. See, a lot of these things people put on the tournament organizer or they put on Valve. Like people always do this, that they're always just like, oh, fucking ESL and shit, or they're like, oh, fucking Valve. But and the individuals will be like all in on like one party to blame. The whole of the community will have a diverse opinions. So like ultimately both people, like the community is blaming both Valve and ESL. But that's the thing. It is, I think, both of their faults. I don't really have like the super inside scoop here, but from what I have gathered, this is basically how it went down. The major format changed. I don't know if that's ESL's decision, but I assume it's Valve, right? I don't think you get to just decide whatever format you want for the major.
That feels correct.
I'm pretty sure Valve. Yeah.
That feels
so
correct.
I'm pretty sure Valve has a hand in that. If actually like the whole hand, I would guess that Valve
it's their hand.
The ones who said, yeah, it's their fucking major.
Yeah, it's up ESL spot. They're puppeting.
Yeah, they're working on like a hand puppet, and so that happened. But from what I gather, nobody was like, wait a minute, what does that mean for the tiebreaker rules? Because I asked an admin for that reason like 2 weeks before the finals ended and was like, hey, what's the tiebreaker rules? And they gave me the tiebreaking rules. And I was like, okay, yeah, but this doesn't make any sense with the new major format. Like, you can very easily just say like, oh, okay, well, like, because the old format was basically there were tiebreakers for like first play. It was for each one of the major spots. So let's say there was one team going in directly into playoffs, right? So you have a tiebreaker for that if necessary. 2 teams go into wild card. If those 2 teams are tied, you don't do a tiebreaker for that, for example, for Western Europe. So you do a tiebreaker wherever it actually matters. And obviously, when everybody goes straight to groups, then that no longer matters. So are you doing tiebreakers for those individual spots for the points? And because that's really all it is. It's seeding, which is whatever. But the big thing, I think, is points. There are significant points up for grab.
The difference between second and third is kind of a lot, right? Like it's...
Yeah. Let's just imagine there was a tiebreaker, a 3-way or 4-way tiebreaker in Western Europe for playoffs. You know, like that's a massive difference in points from 4th to 1st. So, are you still there?
Yeah, just keep going. We're good.
So yeah, it turns out like, okay, there's a bit of problem with the rules set on tiebreakers. We should change that. And from what I understand is that ESL asked Valve, and Valve got back to them. I assume ESL asked late, and Valve also was late in responding. I'm going to assume both parties were involved with it. And the word came down that you should do a tiebreaker for each individual spot, which I think makes the most sense if you put in that rule set before the outcome is determined, right? If you put that in, even like the last 2 weeks, you put that in. Like nobody knows their spot yet. So I think you could change the rule set. But like once the positions have already been determined, that like last half of a week, you change the tiebreaker rule set. I think that makes no sense. Like obviously you're just screwing over some people and they're going to feel like it's totally random. So they change it last second. Everyone gets real mad, and ESL individually decides, okay, we're not going to do that. They're like, okay, like they got the feedback, like, oh, here's how the tiebreaker rule should be, and then they announced that, and then they were like, wait, but no, and then
What?
they back down on it. It's the weirdest fucking thing. Like that's the thing is like when you have a big organization like ESL, like I'm sure there's one person who's like doing the contact with Valve, and there's another person who's like a head admin of esports, and those people have obviously two different ideas. So yeah, ESL was just like, you know what? No, we're not going to do that, which I think was terrible. They could have just been like, okay, but that's the rule set that Valve wants. And they could have just left it at that. They could have just done whatever Valve said. Or they could have said, no, that doesn't make any sense with the outcomes already determined. We're going to, not have tiebreakers. Like that also would have been fine. But doing the yes, there's tiebreakers. No, there isn't tiebreakers. It made no fucking sense. So
it's the flip-flopping and the inconsistency that's problematic here. Because
yeah, also like I think the rule change to begin with was a problem, but then it's made worse by the flip-flopping. Yes.
So what I don't understand too is that like this primarily affected ESL, is my understanding, not just from like a TO perspective, but because China and Southeast Asia played tiebreakers for
yes,
like spots,
because everybody else followed. Exactly, everybody got mad at ESL, but like, why are you doing this? But like all the other qualifiers also did the same thing. It's just ESL that was a very public kerfuffle. And I think also Western Europe was like determined faster than the other regions, and so yeah, that. But yes, all the other regions had individual tiebreakers for each spot, I believe.
Yeah, because those DPC points matter.
Yeah, they do matter.
I'm sure Game and Gladiators would have loved to have had the opportunity to play for an extra 150-ish points against OG.
Yeah, they would have, but also at the same time, that's screwing over OG, who felt like they had already determined it. Like people had already booked flights out and stuff because they were like, oh yeah, we secured it. We've got the head-to-head matchup. We're good,
That's also got to be annoying because then they have to like have more broadcast days. It's more than just the teams, it's the talent, and people's schedules are changing.
They already planned for tiebreakers in that regard when it comes to talent production. So because it's inevitable, there's going to be ties, no matter what. It's one of the two regions is going to have ties.
So is there anything that we can learn here from next season aside from don't change the format at the end? Is that really just the takeaway for next season?
Probably faster and more reliable communication between the two parties. You're planning ahead.
That's not realistic
of any kind. I mean, like I feel like I noticed the tiebreaker rules like possibly before anybody said anything between ESL and Valve. I was like, wait a minute, these tiebreaker rules don't make any sense. And that's why I headed it up in admin. The admin responded with a copy paste of the rules from the rule book. And I was just like, but wait, the rules you just linked me don't make any sense. Please. I mean, they don't make sense in like the lightest sense. It's like, oh yeah, technically now there isn't They all go to group stage. So what does that actually mean? But
not to beat a dead horse, but I think that it's very funny that the situation happened when so much of the narrative for like week 3, 4, 5 was, oh my god, are we gonna have like a 17-way tiebreaker?
oh yeah,
Everyone was talking about it nonstop.
yeah. I mean, the thing is that I there was no way there was going to be a 7-way tiebreaker, right? But you like, it's something interesting to talk about, and that's the problem, is that we end up talking about it so much because there's nothing fucking else going on in the DPC. The DPC is like, storyline wise, is so fucking slow. It's so fucking slow. The first fucking 2 weeks of matches don't mean anything, basically. It's just like, who the fuck knows what this means? This victory over this team could be good. I don't know. Let's see in 4 weeks' time. We're going to look back a month from now. We're going to look back on this moment right here and say, that's when that team didn't qualify for the major. It's like, ugh, fucking terrible. It's terrible for storylines. I'm not saying the DPC is terrible, because I think there are good things about the DPC. I'm just saying storyline wise, it's like real rough. You get on these panels and you talk about the what could happen for these matches, and that's why tiebreaker thing becomes like a storyline.
Because you need something to talk about. You need something to broadcast and talk about.
Yeah, and that tiebreaker possibility lasts for like 2 fucking weeks because there's no progression.
I'm interested to see how the Eastern European tournament that they're ultimately holding for spots of the major unfolds, because it almost feels like people are talking about, hey, like, we want games to matter, we want DPC circuits to be shorter, we want to be able to, like, have these narratives that we enjoy. I wonder if this is going to be too quick, because what they've done now is I mean, out of necessity, they've condensed all 8 teams into a double elimination bracket for 3 slots to go to the major, and they're playing that over the course of a week, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I think it's actually less than a week, technically. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. That contrasts. I feel like it's going to be a lot better from a broadcast perspective, from a viewing perspective, from a player perspective. I think all of those things it's probably better, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's been a little bit since we had a premier online tournament in like that kind of space and time. Like, even during the COVID times, ESL and Omega League did like giant group stage stuff. So yeah. We'll just wait and see. But that was the controversy that happened during the DPC, because every season needs some controversy of some kind. Again, because there's nothing else to talk about.
I know last time we were here, we were talking about what's going to happen at the Stockholm Major, in terms of like who's going to be able to go. And I think that we have a solution now potentially for teams qualifying from China and from Eastern Europe, but still potentially not being there to play. Has there been any news on how that is unfolding?
Not that I know of. I still assume that the Chinese teams will not be going. And I assume that that at least some players aren't going to be going, even if a team can go. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of stand-ins, basically, especially out of the teams coming out of Eastern Europe. Potentially like OG, for an example. They have Russian players. So they have a coach and a Russian player. So it's like, I just assume that, yeah, sure, that maybe all the teams outside of China will go, but it's probably those teams will not be whole.
So Riot is, for their international tournament, is just letting the Chinese team be fully remote when everybody else is at the venue. Is that not an option here?
I don't know. I think that sounds. I mean, what's the difference there, region wise? Like, they're going from China, playing from China to where?
Korea.
Oh, well, then that's probably reasonable. I think playing China to Stockholm is not possible. But
That's true. I mean, I guess maybe some of the Eastern European teams can do that. Like EU,
Yeah.
EU West, like not the worst thing in the world, but you're right. I guess you're not playing Dota on 100 ping, but if the option is play Dota on 150 ping or don't play Dota, do you just take the L with the ping?
I think with the Chinese teams, I think they say don't take the L because they have a structure that allows them to be able to because there's also more teams coming out of China, but also like their infrastructure allows them to be able to bargain as a whole, right? They can all go to Valve and say, we're not fucking doing the major, figure something else out. And I think Valve would. I think Valve would actually give them something else. Don't know what that would look like. Some sort of regional tournament, some sort of Chinese qualifier for TI. Because obviously, if it's a problem for this major, it's probably a problem for the next major as well. So
You can assume.
Yeah, unless the Chinese teams are going to go to the third major and then just stay outside of China until TI rolls around. But I also don't know how hard it is to get out of China right now. Like Shanghai being
You can't get out of Shanghai.
So uber,
You can't.
literally putting gates on people's like apartments and stuff to prevent them from leaving. Yeah. So
It's still very interesting, and there's still a lot of questions. Do you know what if the old VP squad is staying together for their upcoming tournament? Or is
so Virtus Pro and what's the other team?
Hellraisers?
Got blacklisted. Was it Hellraiser? No, it's Gambit.
Gambit? Yes. Yes.
They're the other team. So both of them are going to be playing under different names. Virtus Pro is playing under the name Outsiders, which if you follow the CSGO scene, you'll know that there's also that Virtus Pro is also playing under the same name. And then the Gambit team is playing under the name BB Team. And it seems like Virtus Pro is just taking the Outsiders thing, whatever this is, and they're just bringing it into their organization. Like you watch, and like Virtus Pro is still like that account is still like, you know, pushing Outsider stuff alongside Virtus Pro imagery. So it doesn't really seem like there is much of a change there. I've heard there's that they're gonna be able to play, and there's some sort of restructuring going on in that regard to cut off oligarch ties. I mean, cynical me says that I think that's just probably some, you know, you take it in one hand and put it in the other. Now it's something entirely new, guys. We're no ties whatsoever to the what is an oligarch? I don't even know what that means.
I'm trying to have a counter perspective here. I'm trying to think of my argument to be like, no, surely they're not just like shell companying themselves and really just the same infrastructure and the same people and the same money, right? Maybe there's employees at Virtus Pro who have the right things at heart and want to keep these players together and support them and potentially see a business opportunity in spinning off the team. Maybe at the base level, some of their employees are doing this for the right reason. But I think you're right that on the surface, it looks a little bit like a shell game. Like, it's VP?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's Outsiders. It's VP? Oh, no, it's Outsiders. I
have no opinion on this, to be honest. Like, you know, you did what you could. Like, ultimately, is this going to affect that oligarch all that much? Even if he did have to cut ties entirely with the organization, like, is that going to affect him? Probably not that much. So, I'm fine with this. I guess that's my lazy fucking response to this. It's like, well, we tried. Because like ultimately, the harder you crack down on this, the more the players themselves get punished, and there's an argument for both sides of that. So I think both sides agree that the players are blameless in that regard, but
Yeah, I don't think any player in particular is out here tweeting pro Putin bullshit. Like, and maybe if that's the case, you can kind of target individuals, but to be like, hey, you're all bad, doesn't really sit 100% with me. So it's a complex subject. Let's talk geopolitics more. Or, hear me out, we can not do that.
Or we can do that.
Oh, shit.
But funneled through esports some more.
Oh.
Because there was a little bit. No, not that. We're not talking Saudi Arabia just yet. Talking about there's a little bit of controversy. So the talent lineup for the major in CSGO was announced. And if you follow CSGO at all, the previous major, you'll know, was filled with old school talent. All of like the guys who you would see in the last like 5 to 8 to 10 years. It was just chock full, right? Then this major is now full of a bunch of new talent. And there's a bunch of the old names that are missing. I think most notably there is Sadikist and Moses missing, who is a pretty premier duo. There's Anders, who's like the fucking play-by-play caster of CSGO. He's also missing from the list. And Semler is also missing. I wouldn't put his name up there in the same light as the other two, since he obviously went and did Overwatch for a while. But he tweeted out that he turned down, or let me quote it. I turned down a spot at the major when I learned of the idiotic and immoral restrictions that they have in place. I'll work with PGL and Valve again when they regain their sanity. And immediately people thought this was about COVID, but Anders and Semler, I think, both said, like, no, this is not about COVID, because PGL is requiring people to be vaccinated in order to go. So that is not actually the problem. I assume it has something to do with Russia. I assume it has something to do with the Russian teams and stuff like that. So very interested to see where that ends up going, as that is the really only thing that comes to mind when it comes to somebody having some sort of political or moral high ground that does not allow them to work the event.
I'm trying to think okay, so you're in a position where you are looking to make that tweet and publicly call it your employer and take a stand, but you're not identifying what the thing that you're having a grievance with is about.
Yes.
What does it accomplish? Because now you're just having the audience in mass, like, not really able to be upset at the people you're upset with, in this case PGL, and instead just be confused, right? Like, no one can rally around, like, it's not COVID, but like, no one can rally around COVID. No one can rally around Russia. No one can rally around low pay or what have you, right? Like, it's like half of a subtweet because you don't really know what they're saying, and that feels odd to me, because if no one knows what they're upset about, how's anybody going to know what to fix?
Yeah. Feel like this is a tweet he could have saved for a month down the line when whatever he's talking about is public. And then he can say, I declined the major for this reason. Or if he wants it just generally known that he was invited to the major and he declined it,
be less aggro?
Just as easily... Yeah, he just as easily could have said, I was invited to the major, but I did decline it on personal reasons. I'll talk about it at a later date. That also could have been the tweet, but
that feels like the best. That feels like the best one so far that we've come up with. That feels like the a little bit of sugar, a little bit of honey.
Yeah, in general, though, I feel like in talent, it's advantageous for you. Like, there's no reason to really put out that you Like, you want the community to be like, where's this guy? Where's this guy? Like, you want that little bit of a pushback, because it shows tournament organizers that you are valued, right? And I think the only reason you shut that down is whether maybe because you don't want to use it. Like, for example, like that happened with the Stockholm Major, right? And I would pretty quickly shut that down because, like, one, I didn't want necessarily people to flame ESL, and I felt kind of awkward using that power and like just sitting by knowing that I was potentially going to be working the Stockholm Major, and like people getting upset.
It's a choice, it's a political choice of how to wield the soft power you have.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's also like even the political power side, it just kind of feels gross in some ways.
Absolutely. So
yeah. Questions marks.
Do you even have like speculation for what Semler's upset about?
I assume it has something to do with the Russian teams or certain Russian players not being allowed to play. Because that side of the CSGO talent has been pretty vocal about not banning players or teams or anything like that. So I assume it has something to do with that. Because otherwise, like, how would you using such like strong language like that, idiotic and immoral restrictions? That's pretty intense language right there. That is really putting some heat on the tournament organizers. I will say, though, no matter what his reasoning for it, I do always respect somebody who is willing to decline work like that for their own principles. Even if I disagree with their principles, I will admire anybody who's willing to take that leap. Because I think people from the outside will always look at it and be like, oh, yeah, but you got a lot of karma points. There was a Reddit thread about you that does you good things. Yeah, but none of that means shit. Like, once you're actually,
you can't pay rent.
Once you're in the game long enough, it's like a community fucking, they'll pat you on the back one moment and then stab you in the back the next, like it comes and goes real quickly. So that sort of karma buildup, like, it does very little, I think. So I think overall, the money and the opportunity of being able to work a premier event and secure yourself as like top tier talent and stuff is like worth so much more than whatever like clappy points you get out of the community. Yay, clap, 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 clap.
I'm gonna steal clappy points. That's a good. I like that. I like that a lot.
I was thinking of those fucking Reddit awards that people give out.
Oh, where you have the little
helpful award,
helpful hand.
You got
clap,
a generous award. Like, whatever.
Giving billionaires more money.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not fine.
Speaking of billionaires, you want to talk about Twitter?
Yes, but also no. But yes, I wonder. I think that we generally avoid things, aside from literal war, that's like super zeitgeisty in that regard on the show, because like sometimes it feels like it's hard to make fun, but Twitter to me is one that I feel like almost slots into esports so well, because it is so much a primary platform of news, communication, entertainment, and it's just really kind of important in the industry, not just from a fan perspective, but also from like a work perspective. Twitter and esports are very ingrained inside of each other. So talking about Elon and Twitter almost makes sense when you're talking about esports, even if you don't want to touch on like, the outside news too much. I'm sure people will want to like tune out, but like, man, I got a lot of opinions that I should probably try
mad?
And truncate.
You upset? You sad, bro? You don't like the Musk man buying the Twitter?
So here's the I mean, I am not as anti Elon Musk as other people are.
Uh-huh.
I think I think being a
I
billionaire.
mean, you did buy a Tesla, so yeah.
I don't think we've ever talked about that on the show. That's fine. You're really doxing me right now.
Oh, well, my bad.
So like obviously yes, like I'm not morally opposed to not owning one of his products because of who he is, but and like I use Amazon. I have a Windows PC. Like, you know, I use billionaires' products like most of us do, even though I think that generally it's immoral and we should tax them more and blah 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 blah. I have a problem with Elon Musk's acquisition of Twitter, and I'm really struggling with it because I think that my core problem with this is something that a younger me would be so upset that I'm about to like say or explain. Because when I was more of a youth Joey, maybe more of like a Counter-Strike Joey, if you like, you know, tie those two things together, a past me was much more libertarian of like, you know, hey, people should be able to do what they want. We should probably have, you know, less regulation and control over everything ever. You know, just that's kind of a core nugget there. And one of the things that really gets me all heated up about Elon and Twitter is that, like, I'm worried about the idea that is being spread that Twitter needs to be a full public square with, you know, basically zero or close to zero censorship or getting rid of people. And where a younger me would be like, yeah, of course people should say whatever they want, even if it's hate speech. A current me goes, that's a horrible idea. That's a really, really bad idea to give these people that we have kind of deplatformed because they're bad a platform again. And that's what I'm worried about on Twitter, which, you know, touches esports a little bit, but touches politics much more and touches our general community even more than that. And I just don't know what's going to happen. And that's what's scary, because I think Elon's views of free speech is antiquated in old internet and not modern internet.
Okay. You want to hear my take on this?
Do you have like a really soft, boring one? Like, oh, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
I knew it.
Jesus Christ. I just feel like, am I insane? Like, why is everybody getting so fucking worked up about this before anything has happened? You know? Wait to see what happens with the platform first before everybody starts freaking the fuck out. I did read a funny tweet. I hope it was a satire account that was talking about people. I think immediately think of like Trump getting unbanned or whatever. But I saw something about like free speech, and this guy was like, I think it was a satire account advocating for all the ISIS accounts that got banned off the platform. You know, like free the ISIS accounts. I thought that was pretty funny. But like, honestly, I just feel like people are really freaking the fuck out. And ultimately, I feel like if the platform is ruined enough, then
there'll be another one.
There will be something else. Like just through our timeline, we've gone through MySpace, Facebook, into now Twitter. You know. That's there's going to be something else that comes along if this gets fucked up enough that enough people are unhappy with it. So yeah, I don't know, man.
I agree with you a lot there, and I think that, you know, my little speech and my worries come from just that. They're worries. It's a thing that I like, that I've spent a lot of time on, that I don't really want to see take a path that is like ickier. And maybe that's silly. Maybe I should be like, oh, hey, if Twitter gets ruined, I'll just not be on Twitter anymore. But I like Twitter. I've been on Twitter for like 12 years. All my friends are on Twitter. I do it when I'm pooping. And, you know, maybe it's that change that I'm scared of. Does the argument that someone with that much money spending it on something seemingly so like petty and stupid bother you at all?
Not really. So it's a business investment. He bought a business. You know, if like, I personally hope that it fucking tanks and Twitter's not worth anything in 2 years. I think that would just for my own personal humor, I think that would be really funny. If he spent $45 billion to buy this website that is defunct in like 3 years' time, that would be hilarious to me. But otherwise, I don't really care. This is an investment. I'm sure he's not doing it just for total shits and giggles. I'm sure he sees some value in owning this site. So
I would
I
hope
don't
so.
fucking know. I think there are so many fucking things in the internet and esports specifically that are so crazy overvaluated that I'm just waiting for some course correction, some price correction on all of these insane companies that are worth way too much apparently.
So you're officially in bear mode. You're selling. You're buying all your puts. Everything's going down.
The one that are we talking general stocks? No, I'm just talking about like esports especially.
Yeah, like our bubble. Like,
yeah, I think most people inside of esports agree that esports is in some sort of bubble. Question is whether or not like it's a bubble, but it does have a future. So does the future become realized before the bubble pops, or does the bubble pop and then things kind of reset, and then we eventually get to that future timeline where esports is actually getting monetized in some way? That's the biggest problem, right? Is that esports just isn't monetized very well. People just watch for free. And at best you get some ad revenue from people, but that's the current system.
What if Elon bought esports?
Oh my god, he just bought all of esports Incorporated.
He would have to buy ESL and then Saudi Arabia, and then also buy most of the teams, and then buy Valve, which is probably impossible. Buying esports would be really expensive, much more expensive than buying Twitter.
Hey, I have an interesting hypothetical for you. Yeah, okay. So Gamers Galaxy, right? At Gamers Galaxy tournament, would you have ever worked that event? Out of curiosity.
That's the one in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
The answer is probably yes, pending the amount of money, because my morals are loose based on income.
So let's say hypothetically, you are offered a job. Let's say you didn't even have to go, but it was just online, but it's very tightly tied with esports washing. How much? So you're saying the money is tied to your morals here, and I think most people agree with that, right?
Even if they won't admit it, there's a
price tag for everybody.
I'm being honest about it.
Yeah, even if you're the most pure-hearted, generous, giving person in the world, ultimately there is a dollar amount that will do more good. You can do more good with that dollar amount than the bad that you're going to do with doing this one thing. So let's say you have a day rate like I do. What would you do it for your regular day rate? Would you do it for 1.5 your day rate? 2 times your day rate? 5 times your day rate? Where is the cutoff? What is the number here?
It depends on how much leverage you have, probably based on who else is working the thing, and if you are needed, because probably the less of a cohort that does something, the more sacred the good cohort becomes. Ergo they could charge more. I would probably start out around double and want a little bit more. I would probably start out at double and want a little bit more. Maybe if the situation calls for 3x because you think that's something that can be obtainable, and then negotiated down, maybe I would do that. Have to feel it out.
Okay. So we've identified 2x as your baseline, basically 2x for doing an online event. Now, what if you had to go there in person? What x is your... So if 2x is just doing it online, then actually going there in person, what percentage, what x?
It would need to be more than that.
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking, and maybe I'm taking this a little bit too seriously, but like I really want to get invested in this hypothetical, okay?
No, I think it's fun. I think it's a fun hypothetical.
I have a lot of friends in the LGBT plus community. And I think that they would be really upset with me, and I would have to. I think they'd be really upset with me.
Buy their forgiveness back.
Yeah, so I would need enough money. I would need enough money to not just make it worth my while, but also to buy a lot of drinks and dinners and flowers or something, or to donate or to do something positive with, because personally, though, those conversations would be hard for me. That I would be throwing away some morals with relationships, personal relationships, for financial gain. I would still do it, but like that is, that's why it would have to be more, because I would have to come home and explain to people my actions, and that would be hard, because it is hard, right? I don't know what that is, but it's more than 2x. It's more than 2x. I would probably, before agreeing, want to have a serious conversation with the employer about what precautions are being taken for any type of diversity, be it female or queer or racial, to try and hope that the person putting on the work would have thought about this or tried to talk to the government to make sure that, say, if people were coming in who are not normally welcome in that community, are going to be safe. Because I would also feel really weird doing it if I knew that some of my coworkers were potentially at risk because of their own identity.
So I think we landed on a similar note here. And my thought process is, so to be clear, Gamers Galaxy I didn't get paid anything extra for. That was just an event I was approached to. Yeah, sure, I'll go to Saudi Arabia. This setup that I'm talking about seems a little bit different to me, and I think it's pretty clear sports washing. And what I settled on was 2x and 5x. And then I would take a percent, 25%, maybe 50%, somewhere in there. And I would donate that bit to charity. Because I honestly feel like, because what I want out of this is to extract as much profit away and put it into my bank account where I can do good things with it, So
you would be content being esports Robin Hood.
Yeah, that is, I guess, one way to look at it. Yeah, I basically, the way I thought about it was that I needed to get as much. If I was going to do this, I need to get as much out of them as possible, and then I can do with the money as I want and donate some to charity. I would still keep a significant portion.
Yeah.
But donate 25-50% of it to charity. But that's what I settled on.
That's what you settled on. Okay, so this is like a very elaborate hypothetical, like a like an asking for a friend situation. I mean,
I'm saying that I was offered this situation, and that's what I counter responded with.
Oh,
so I was curious what you would have done in that situation. So, but it seems like we ended up in very similar lines. Thing is I'm okay with talking about this because no one, I really don't care. Anybody tries to shame me about it, I do not care. I feel very set on the thought process I ended up on.
I agree with your thought process. God, I'm so fucking agreeable this week. Oh, what's just wrong with me? Yeah, all those numbers could be fudged a little bit, but yeah. We've left just a trail of breadcrumbs so thick it looks like we're walking on fucking baguettes right now. But like, this is very interesting and not official at all at a hypothetical.
Yeah, I mean, somebody will put together the pieces, I'm sure, whenever this thing gets announced. But,
I
I don't think I'm gonna be working it because they said that was too much, and I was like, okay, because like that ultimately I was just like, if they decline, like I really don't care. I don't care that much, you know.
yeah.
Somebody's going to do it, so I might as well get as much money out of them as possible.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. And I'm very interested to see what happens from a talent perspective, from a team perspective, from an everybody perspective.
Yeah.
Because I think that a lot of people were told that this potential hypothetical wasn't going to happen, even though everybody assumed that it was.
What? No, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
What?
What?
I'll leave it there.
Okay. Anyway, so that's what's been going on in my head lately. Other than that, I don't know. I'm back home. I'm gonna get back to streaming. I gotta figure out what I'm doing for the next like 2-3 months, because presumably I'm going to the major. Presumably.
Hypothetically.
I still can't talk about whatever the fuck, you know, that once all this gets announced, I will have some things to say about this subject, but
Table it.
Once things gets announced, and hopefully I'm doing Stockholm Major, but then like I come back, I'm not working a third season, so I gotta find, if I don't get any work, then I gotta find something else to do. I'm gonna have like 2 months on my hand of like literally no work.
One of those things should be let's go to the gym together.
You could come to Glendale and go to the gym with me
once a week. I will come out
once a week.
I will come out once a week for one of my sessions.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Sure.
Great. Yeah. You want some work? I'll show you all my job postings if you're looking for, you know, like some contract stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go hard on the paint for like some voice acting stuff. See if I can drum up a few jobs there. But ultimately, I'm really getting deeper into this position of like, I have to find other ways to make money, because this whole esports thing is not looking super viable in the future. I'm going to keep doing esports. I'm going to keep casting Dota, but like I do need to find something else that supplements that. Streaming isn't really it. I just don't think I'm a good streamer. Mm-hmm. Don't think I'm necessarily a good content creator for YouTube stuff either. So I got to find something else to do.
Yeah, what's the escape hatch? Or at least the secondary income? Maybe it'll be house flipping or car salesman. Maybe you're really good at concrete work. Have you ever like tried concrete?
My dad really wanted me to become a real estate agent with him. My dad did that whole like, he retired, became he started trading options, did that for a while, then became a real estate agent recently, and he really wanted me to become one as well. I was like, nah, I've got this whole esports thing I'm doing right now, Dad.
I don't think you'd be horrible at that. Anything that involves charisma is a natural path for you.
Yeah, but then I have to see people.
That's true. You don't like to leave your house very much.
Yeah. I don't like that at all. What is this use of charisma if I don't like talking to people in the first place? You know? I just fake it. The entire time whenever I'm talking to somebody, you know?
Oh, shit.
I just...
He doesn't want to go to the gym. We're not actually friends. Oh, fuck.
Except for very specific people. You're one of them, Joey. Don't worry.
God, he's so good at lying also. Maybe a lawyer?
I'm really good at bullshitting. It's true. I'm very good at that.
Before we wrap out for real, we're at about an hour. I want to make sure that we go give our friends over at Patreon.com/side pull some love and answer fan questions to wrap out the episode like we normally do.
Yeah.
I've updated the pin in our Discord chat today. So you can just whichever one's at the top, my friend.
Okay. From Aaron Christensen, Ice Frog has come to you and asked you to create a brand new neutral item or redesign a current one What is the item? What tier is it? And what does it do? Oh no, this is too much creativity on the spot.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Oh no. Yeah. This is a little production tip. This is why some things you want to pre-pro and have your talent, which in this case would be us, like have like an answer ready because what's going on right now is this thing called filling, where I'm just saying words, so like maybe Cap can think about something and then I'll try and think about something while he is explaining his, which is bad because that means that I'm not
version of Philosopher's Stone. Boom. Sounds broken as shit, actually. I don't know. There's so many things in Dota. And part of the reason is that like I struggle coming up with something is that Dota has so many things, and I feel like in some ways Dota needs less things. So yeah. I haven't actively thought about like what would be a cool item or something like that, because like I already feel like there's too much shit in Dota. You know, like yeah, today I was playing a game and we went almost 60 minutes and we're talking about what items should we build, and somebody was like, "Oh, don't forget about the new upgraded Vladimirs." You know, I was just like, Jesus Christ! It's just like one more fucking item that you have to like think about. Like what, you know, like I'm sitting there, I'm like going, "Oh, what's best for my build?" I'm playing Spirit Breaker against Medusa, you know, like, and so I go in AC. You know, because I think that'll help my team and help my Weaver do damage, and it'll make me super tanky with 25 talent that I have, and you know, maybe I'll get a Shivas after that, or maybe I'll go Octarine or something like that. There's so many options late game of like what good things you can do. Like I broke apart my Sanj Kaya to get a late Heaven's Halberd and turn it into a Yasha Kaya, since I was super tanky at that point in time, and made a late Heaven's Halberd because that's super effective against Dusa. You know, like there's so many thought process to go through, and there's so many options. There's so many pathways you could choose. There's a different world where I could have gone Vlad's and I could have gone that upgraded Vlad's thing, and maybe it would have been really good. I have no fucking clue, honestly. I have no clue if it's good because nobody builds it. It's expensive.
I'm gonna flip the question a little bit.
Okay.
I'm gonna give some random bullshit that could be a neutral item, and I need you to balance it for me by telling me what tier it is.
Okay.
An active item that's like a little firework that shoots up with a fun little particle effect. It goes pew, that pops in the air, and when the firework pops in the air, it reveals and does 2 ticks of damage to both Sentry and Observer wards, with a 500 AOE.
So it's a dewarding, dewarding nuke. Okay.
It's a dewarding nuke.
What is the range you could throw it at?
Every 2 minutes. It activates around your hero in a 500 AOE with a 1 or 2 second delay.
I'm gonna say this is one of those things that is super hard to place into a tier because it's too. I think it's probably like tier 2 or tier 3 or something, but it's too OP because it's a unique mechanic that the other team won't have. So I feel like it's too OP if you get it too early, but then simultaneously it's dog shit later. Not necessarily dog shit, it's still going to be useful. It's going to be one of those items you keep in your backpack and then swap in at specific times, but I do generally like the concept, though, of not a neutral item, but a regular item that allows you to be able to deward an area from a distance. Because the way Dota is currently played is that these wards, Team Spirit really cemented this meta of playing around your high ground vision constantly. And now, so the meta is that people just play around their high ground vision. Even if you know there's a ward there, it doesn't really, like, you get into some sort of team fight, like if you approach the ward, you're just dead because they're ready to kill you the moment you get close to the ward. So if you could kill that vision from a distance, let's say like 500, 600 range or something, you could throw something to be able to kill vision that you know is there. I think that would actually be pretty sick. It's like a version of smoke, you know? Like it's like a smoke grenade, you know? Like if you could throw something down to be able to block out that vision, so that way your aggressive move into this area is actually covered in some way. I think that'd be pretty sick. I think you're onto something, Joey. Not a neutral item, but I think a regular item that'd be really cool.
Is that a consumable?
Yeah, I think it'd have to be a consumable like smoke itself. I think it's one of those things that goes in conjunction with smoke sort of deal. Which just means more items supports have to carry. So maybe that's a little weird because I feel like they already have to do a lot in that regard. But it would make support's life significantly easier because so much of your job is like dewarding right now and not dying dewarding. It's like it's the easiest kills in the world right now. If you play pubs, just plant a high ground ward and just sit there and wait. Somebody's gonna come in, somebody's gonna try and deward, kill that guy. Kill that guy when he tries to deward. Oh, now it's 4 versus 5, and you've got this nice aggressive ward, you know? Now you can actually make offensive moves.
Well, when something like this comes to the game eventually, I'm going to point to this episode and then talk about how Ice Frog listens to Side Pull, and then that'll be the whole conceit of the episode and all the marketing for the show.
Hell yeah.
You want to hit one more before we go home?
Yeah, sure. What's the best restaurant you've ever been to, and what did you get, and what made it stand out? From Austin Alborn. An alliterative name. Damn.
Big fan of alliterative names.
My name's also Austin, but my last name is not Alborn. It's Walsh.
Do you have like a singular restaurant or dining experience that like stands out as truly like a number one for you? Because generally I don't. I think that this is the way that my brain thinks about similar experiences like this, is that I have like a pantheon of things that are in like an upper echelon or an S tier, but I don't think that there's anything that is like a singular top of the mountain. I think about that like about games and about food and about movies and TV and like most things that I like. It's really hard for me to pinpoint a single this is the best. So like a question like this is like really is really hard for me.
There was definitely a restaurant when we did our vacation in London. That was probably, I think it was Dinner by Heston Blumenthal, I believe was the restaurant's name. It's in London. It's like a 1 or 2 star Michelin restaurant. And they, did very good food. The food was very, very, very good. It was amazing. But the thing that really flipped it to being from like top 5 to number 1 was the one specific dish, and it was the dessert, and they do a pineapple, an upside down pineapple like turnover cake thing, and when you walk in, you can actually see into the kitchen, and there are these spits like you would have for like kebabs. But in those spits, it's pineapples. And the pineapples are just roasting the entire time. And that's how they make these cakes, is that they slow roast these pineapples for hours. And then that goes into the cake. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Like I like pineapple, but I don't love it. Like I don't eat it by itself, for example. But it was one of the best. It was probably the best dessert I've ever had, and probably one of the best meals that I've ever had. So that is my answer. Easy.
I don't think I can truly give one, which is such a cop-out. If Austin wants any tips on food in Los Angeles, I will give you 3 options for almost every type of cuisine. But if you want to know like what my favorite of something is, like that's really hard, you know. I've had some really good
Georgian.
barbecue.
Give me 3 Georgian restaurants.
Everybody, that's patreon.com/sidepole. Thanks for tuning in this week. We'll see you next week. Everybody, love Georgia.
Liar.